You know, a lot of athletes out there struggle with overhead mobility when it comes to getting into really good and stable and safe positions for the Olympic lifts. If that sounds like you and you struggle snatching or jerking with ease due to some like upper body or T-spine mobility, then you wanna stay tuned because I'm gonna go through my top 5 favorite mobility exercises for your upper back and your shoulders. My name is Julia, I'm a weightlifting coach, and I work with a lot of beginners and a lot of intermediate athletes, specifically who struggle with some lockout issues, some overhead mobility issues, some I have a hard time stabilizing my snatch because my shoulders don't feel great issues. So this is really something that I spend a lot of time with early on with my newer athletes, developing those really sound mechanics in their upper body so that we can eventually load some really heavy weight on top of that. We know that good mobility is really essential for safe execution of the Olympic lifts. However, that range of motion is gonna look different on every athlete. Some people are gonna be really hypermobile and will have a hard time stabilizing, while others are really gonna struggle getting into those positions in the first place. What's most important is that you feel stable in your overhead position, even if it looks different than somebody else's. And as always, if you experience pain, then stop watching things on YouTube and go seek out a professional. But also, if you want something on the internet that might be informative and might include a professional, then check out my awesome video with Dr. Zena from Good Reps Physical Therapy, where we talked about what to do if you experience back pain in the Olympic lifts. Okay, so in this video here, I'm gonna address the top 3 things that I look for that are gonna impact your overhead mobility, and those are T-spine extension, that's thoracic spine ability to extend, muscular tension in the lats and the triceps, and shoulder internal and external rotation. All right, now each of those things can absolutely have an entire video on its own, but you know that I'm all about efficiency and targeting as many things as possible and getting you maximal results in as little time as I can. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna try to talk about all those things and give you a few specific tools to help improve your T-spine mobility, your flexibility through your lats, through your triceps, if you're having some lockout issues, and your comfort rotating that shoulder from internal to external, which we know is really, really important for the lifts. Hey, have you heard about Weightlifting Foundations? It's my virtual intro to weightlifting program. This is really, really great for novice lifters or maybe lifters that have been doing CrossFit for a while and are looking to migrate into the sport of weightlifting, but don't have a coach handy, don't know a system to follow. This is a great place to start. If you wanna learn a little bit more about it, go ahead and click down below. There's a link in my bio that's gonna take you to a free intro to weightlifting course where you can learn a little bit more about my teaching style. You can learn about the types of things that I really focus on with my athletes, and then you can figure out if we're a good fit from there. So my first exercise here is something called a half kneeling thoracic rotation, right? So we're gonna move your upper back, we're gonna move your T-spine with a shoulder car. Now a car is just a controlled articular rotation, AKA a shoulder circle. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get some T-spine rotation, we're gonna get some movement into internal and external rotation in your shoulder all at once. I'm gonna set up for this kneeling. My hips are going back towards my heels. I'd like the tops of my feet flat if that's comfortable. And then you're gonna take the non-working arm and just put it out in front of you. This has to stay nice and straight. It's gonna help you brace and really stabilize your hips. Now this other hand, we're gonna go behind your head. You're gonna start here. Exhale, rotating just your upper back. Try not to let the hips move. Then from here, you're gonna take this top hand, take a nice big semicircle all the way around. Find that internal rotation. See what I'm doing? I'm turning that circle in. So now my palm is facing the ceiling. And then I'm gonna bend my elbow and put it up as high up my back as I can. Then I reverse. Arm goes straight. There's external rotation of my shoulder. Hand comes behind my head. I reset. Second up that we're gonna do here is something called a diamond scorpion. So maybe you've done scorpions before. Usually they're laid out with your arms straight out to the side, slightly different arm position. We're gonna go hands together underneath the head with your elbows out to the side so that as you rotate, and again, we're finding that thoracic rotation, you're gonna get a little bit more of a stretch through the pec, which is one of the things, and I didn't talk about it, but that can contribute to some tightness going into overhead. So from here, I'm gonna lay down, palms together, like I said, elbows out to the side, head will stay on your hands. You're gonna take one leg up and over shoulder. When I get to this position, I'm trying to keep this elbow down and the shoulder close to the ground. I should feel a stretch here. This knee, I'm gonna reach towards the ceiling and try to get my foot to the ground. Next, I'm gonna do something called an anti-extension press. So this is really great if when going overhead, you start to feel like you're arching your back a whole lot. So we're gonna teach you how to maintain length in that lumbar spine in your lower back, find extension in your upper back, and then practice locking out. You're gonna need a band and something to attach you to. I'm gonna come down to a half kneeling position. So I got one leg down, one leg in front. This guy is gonna pass behind me, and I'm gonna bring the band out in front of my chest. From here, hips tucked under, ribcage stays down, you're gonna press and try to go as straight as you can without allowing this to happen. We're keeping that nice strong integrity in your midline. Press, practice getting your arms behind your ears, full lockout, and then back down. So if you notice in that last exercise, one of the things that we started doing is adding load. I'm a really big believer that load changes tissues. If we want you to move differently and support load in different positions, and we want your tissue to change and respond, we have to progressively add load to it. Passive stretching is not enough, particularly in a load-bearing sport. You need bigger external stimulus. So for this next exercise, we're gonna do just that. We're gonna start to add some load to that shoulder. What we're gonna do is a windmill. Now you can use a dumbbell, you can use a kettlebell, but we're adding some of that T-spine rotation. We're gonna add some core stability because that's always important. And we're gonna learn how to stabilize your shoulder. So when I start with this, I'm gonna hold that bell in a rack position. I can use a dumbbell as well, and I'm gonna press it straight overhead. My job is to keep that bell directly over my shoulder. Now I'm gonna take my feet and I'm gonna separate them about shoulder width apart, and I'm going to turn my toes away from the bell. So if I were holding my other hand, my toes would be going the other way. The first thing I'm gonna do is establish a lateral hinge. So I'm gonna push my hip to the side. You notice my hip is going towards the load. This front leg is gonna be bent slightly. I don't need to squat, and I'm gonna really try to bias T-spine rotation. I'm gonna try to rotate my upper back. Then from there, eyes on the bell, I'm gonna hinge down as low as I can, and then I'm gonna come on back up and square myself off. So again, lateral hip hinge, soft front knee, T-spine rotation, lots of stability right here. Reach it down, bring it all the way back up. Now the last thing we're gonna do is specifically target the overhead squat. And I'm gonna give you two different options based on how demanding that overhead squat is for you. So this is called a wall-facing overhead squat. Now I'm gonna use a rack as a barrier, but you can use a wall, right? Normally it's done with that. My first option is to do this body weight. Just get as close as I can to that surface and try to maintain my arms by my ears as I overhead squat. Now your goal if you were using a wall is not to actually touch it. I actually want your arms actively pulling back behind your ears and maintaining a lot of tension there. Now, if that's super easy, we're gonna add load to it. And so we get a little bit more length through those triceps, because we talked about that's a thing that we want to really focus in on. We're gonna add an elbow bend. So one of the things I didn't talk about, but is really worth mentioning, is soft tissue work. Soft tissue work implies foam rolling or maybe rolling with a lacrosse ball. While it is not a cure-all, what soft tissue work can do is, one, increase some blood flow to that area so that we get a little bit more fluids moving, and also act as a desensitizer, right? Especially if something feels really, really tight or really restricted. A lot of times just sending that nerve impulse from the muscle through a little bit of foam rolling into your brain is gonna help desensitize it and allow you to move into positions a little bit more smoothly. Now, what I recommend in terms of how long to foam roll, really 30 seconds per muscle group is just fine. You also don't need to apply a whole lot of pressure. Less is more. That's it. There you go. Keeping it super quick and simple for y'all so that we actually take action. I want you to do the stuff. I want you to get better at the stuff. As always, thank you for stopping by. If you need more resources of mobility exercises, of ways to warm up, I have an entire playlist dedicated to that, so go ahead and check that out. And as always, subscribe, stay tuned. I come out with these videos every couple weeks. They are here for you as resources so that you can become a better lifter. Thank you. See you on the platform.